That's how to create this moving paintings Harry Potter style animation in DaVinci Resolve. You'll need some background video featuring paintings. If you're filming it yourself, make sure to use a green screen inside your frames. It'll save you a lot of trouble because patterns like the one I've used here turned out to be insanely difficult to work with. You'll also need some other videos you want to play inside your paintings. Layer everything on top of each other in the Edit tab and crop them to the same length. Then select everything and create a fusion composition. Inside the Fusion tab, I'm just going to rearrange the node structure slightly. It doesn't change anything. It's just how I do things and how my brain processes the logic behind it, so you could just leave it the way it was. I built this animation in 3 steps. First, we'll track the pictures and attach our cat videos to them. Then we'll adjust the colors to match the setting, and finally we'll bring this guy up to the front. On the background video, you'll need to add a Planar Tracker. Choose a frame, mask the area of the first picture you want to replace, and click on Set to set the current frame as the reference time for tracking. This first painting is actually easy to track, so I'll go with the default settings and track forwards and backwards. Once that's done, change the mode to corner pin and track the corners to the corners of your painting. The more accurately you match the corners, the better the result. Then connect the video you want to insert here to the foreground input of the Planar Tracker and it will snap into place. We're lucky with this one as the ratio matches our painting. The next one won't, and we'll need to see how to handle that in a bit. To change the zoom or position of your video, add the transform node and adjust the parameters until you get something you like. As long as you add the transform before the Planar Tracker, the video stays inside the frame and you can do whatever you want. You'll need to repeat this process for all the paintings, so I'll need another Planar Tracker to track the second painting. In this case, we got a lot of issues that make the tracking difficult. Most obviously, we've got this guy appearing and disappearing in front of the painting, which will mess up our tracking process. But we can fix this pretty easily by adding a polygon node to the Planar Tracker and masking him out. Now the tracker does a much better job and we can use the corner pin to attach the second video to this painting. In this case, the video has a different aspect ratio to the area we want to pin it on. There are a few ways to solve this, and I'll just add a crop node to it and adjust the parameters so it fits inside the frame. I also cleaned up my nodes a bit as they were getting really messy, and we are going to add a lot more, so we need some structure here. Now when we play our animation, there's a lot of movement in the second picture. That's because it's insanely difficult to track. I tried different tracker settings and tracked it over and over until I got a better result, but it's still not perfect, so we'll need to set some keyframes manually to adjust the movement. This process is called Rotoscoping and it can take a lot of time. So pop on a podcast or whatever you like to listen to and have some patience. Go to corner pins, set keyframes for the corner positions and adjust them to fit where they're supposed to be. At first, try to set as few keyframes as possible. We want smooth movement and we don't want the pictures jumping around from frame to frame. You'll need to rewatch the sequence over and over, adjust the keyframes, add new ones, or remove some until you get something you like. I found it worked best to set the Y values for the top and the bottom corners to be the same, otherwise I got too much up and down movement. Now that we've got our pictures in place, we can color grade them to blend into the setting. I don't think there's a right or wrong here, just add the nodes and make the adjustments you think look best. I'm using these nodes here. I added some color correction, tweaked the brightness and contrast a bit, then I added a bit of blur because the background is slightly out of focus and I wanted the video to blend in. I added some glow as well, though in retrospect I'm not entirely sure about that choice. You'll probably want to add some shadow to the edges to blend them with the frame. So add a merge node and attach a background node to it. Add a rectangle to the blue input to make it a mask, then swap the foreground and background, adjust the rectangle and darken the edges by tweaking the border width and soft edge settings. The node tree can get really big, so you can collapse nodes into a group for your own sanity and a clearer overview, which I am doing here. Repeat the color grading and edge shadowing for all of your pictures. It's not that interesting to watch, so I'm fast forwarding through this bit, and once you're done with that, let's move on to our final step. Right now our videos are overlaying the guy, so we're going to bring him to the front. For the first painting, I add a polygon mask to the respective tracker node because the mask needs to move with the picture. Then I pick a frame where he stands in front of the first painting and start masking his shape. You'll need to be really accurate here and follow the outline closely, otherwise it will look weird. But luckily we only need to mask the part overlapping with the painting, so we don't need to be precise on the rest. Also, soften the edges just a bit for a better result. Once you're done, the mask should move with the picture. Sometimes you'll get really good results, but in my case we have to adjust the keyframes a bit. As before, don't overdo it. The fewer keyframes the better. I keyframed every 10 frames and that worked great for me. Just make sure the points match the outline and set keyframes for center and shape animation every time you make changes. I repeated this for both of my paintings, adding a new polygon mask to each Planar Tracker node and masking only the necessary bits. Depending on your composition's movement, you could maybe get away with less masking. This step is really important in our case, so make sure to be as precise as possible. But if you work with green screen footage from the beginning, you won't need to do this at all. So if you're filming things with this particular effect in mind, use a green screen for your own sanity, or at the very least, don't use patterns that are difficult to track and post. So let's recap our node structure. I've got a background video with 2 paintings, and I added 2 planar trackers to track both of them. For the second tracker to work properly, we had to exclude the guy from being tracked, so we masked his shape using a polygon mask. Then we attached the cat videos to the tracker's foreground input and used the transform and crop node to make them fit inside their respective frames. After that, we adjusted the colors and added some other effects to make the videos blend in with the footage. We also added some shadow to the edges by using a background node and a rectangular mask. Finally, we added a polygon mask to each tracker node to bring our guy in front of the paintings. And that's it. Thanks for watching.